Throughout my nearly 3 years making videos on this platform, I've seen one comment more than anything else.
This channel is well made. 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 This channel is well made.
Oh, wait. It's gotta be around here somewhere. No? No one wanted this video? Like, at all? Well, I already have the footage, so I don't care. You're here and I need money. Please, please watch it.
Depths of your foolishness!
After booting up the game, I was greeted by 4 brand new classes who didn't look like the eldritch horrors I was used to, but as I learned recently, I'm pretty flexible. So I went with the gladiator because I've never tried out fists before. I can't just leave this guy bare bones though, so after giving him the makeover, I present you with inbred Marcus Phoenix, or as he's known on the streets, Marcus Phonix. After finishing, I loaded into the Chapel of Anticipation, which looked the same, aside from a slightly different colored message in the corner, which is normally where I'm posted up. All it did was explain the hint system to me, so I just went outside to get my humiliation ritual over with. After waking up in a dark cave, I noticed Piss Godfrey's cousin, Piss Crucible Knight, who really wanted me to dive into a hole, so I did just that and rested at my first grace, where there were a lot of difficulty options, though judging by my performance in my past Elden Ring videos, I have a feeling default will be good enough for me. So I was off on my merry way, learning all sorts of things, like the new crafting system and timed inputs, though the thing that stuck out to me the most was deflecting, because back in my prime, 8th grade, I first tried Sword Saint Ashina. I know, I don't mean to brag. However, I might be kinda washed up now, cause this wasn't looking too good. Another system that really stuck out to me was the rune forging, because this segment showed me that there's little rune fragments hidden throughout the world that can be traded for free extra stats, so for once I'll get to deviate off the standard path. However, this wasn't the only surprise in the cave, because an old lady gave me an oracle effigy where I could give myself fortunes, though she wouldn't let me pass without equipping one, so I threw on the warrior one. After stealthing my way through a couple more pissed soldiers, I came across the boss, who wasn't Rick. These guys taught me all sorts of new things I'll never use to evade, like jumping and strafing, which I'm sure are good, but I've played too much Dark Souls to ever do anything else besides rolling. However, it was still incredibly easy, right up until Riasis sat up and beat the crap out of me for the next 20 minutes of my miserable life. This guy was making me use all the tools at my disposal to dodge him, and if I missed, he hit me like a piece of spaghetti. After a couple attempts, I brought him to his knees, and my reward for that hard work? An armor set I'll never use, but hey, it's better than a gesture. Continuing up though, it was on to Limgrave I went. Now, I still hadn't had a proper opportunity to use my fists, and since old Marcus clearly has something pent up inside him, I decided to let it all out onto this tree sentinel, who surprisingly was taking a lot of damage. Now, doing this contributed about nothing to my net worth and gave me a golden stick, but on the bright side, at least our boy can settle down for a bit. Now, after running up and grabbing my trusty steed, I was ready for the monotonous task of farming for random crap. However, just as I was getting started, I noticed that the ruins didn't have an entrance anymore. In its place was a glowing blue circle that I could channel some energy in, so after draining myself right there on the stone, I was able to open the entrance and grab the same items I normally would, but hey, at least the puzzle was cool. Anyways, after that was the long, boring task of collecting all the seeds and smithing stone upgrades I need, though it was made slightly more fun due to the little check marks that appeared on the map. The worst part of this is that they made Mommy Grail uncheesable, so I couldn't get extra runes that way. Anyways, after about an hour of doing this, specifically while I was on my way to the Weeping Peninsula, I came across a tree sentinel who finally wasn't glued to his horse. This also meant he was much easier to defeat because despite my initial fear, he had a pretty hard time covering large distances, so I took him down on the first try before continuing my exploration. Of course, grabbing a few rune pieces along the way. Now, there was one thing I came across, an enemy camp, and the only way to unlock the rewards was killing everyone. Now, I personally think that this is a great idea because in base Elden Ring, literally no one stops at those things. However, I was still getting rocked because this was in Caelid, which I wasn't ready for at all, so after my little journey, I was finally back on the path for Margit, who, despite all that, was still tanking my attacks a bit too much. I was still able to get him though and check out the relatively unchanged round table hold. Actually, the only difference here was the Ash of War upgrade system, which basically just replaces duplication. Either way, still cool, but at this point my mind's filled with too many new systems, so I'll go take a break at Stormveil. So yeah, the Reforged team made the projectiles like 50 times speed, so it's almost impossible to get through. Keyword being almost. Because yeah, I went out of my way to learn the timing so I wouldn't have to go through all of Stormveil again. Think harder, not smarter. At the end of this run, I came across the classic Godric fight, who for some reason they made have faster animations, which caught me off guard every single time. Now, I couldn't do anything with my fist here, so it was time for a switch up, and that begins with swapping to an axe. Back to my grass-fed roots. That's also when I found out that Hugh sells the smithing stones after you upgrade a weapon to the point where you're done with that stone. I hope that made sense because I couldn't figure out how to write that any better. Anyways, after coming back, I was able to absolutely smite him with the power of my long dark stick. Now, I was able to get his great rune, but unlike convergence, they're making me activate it. So begrudgingly, I ran up the tower because I knew I needed to open the door to unlock rune forging. Now, I did have 20 fragments, so I was able to get an extra point in strength. Not that great, but hey, it's something. On to Liurnia. Right at the beginning, I found a camp, and this time it's not in Caelid, so I won't get touched by people 80 levels older than me. After whacking around the fellas there, I got a message saying somewhere a chest is open, so I scooted on over to it and got the Godric soldier set, so now I can roleplay as Rick. Right next to this was a fat woman who sat on this poor gentleman, then she sat on me. I felt way too underlevel for this, so sadly I just had to leave. However, that's when I realized I had never killed the Mad Tonguer himself, so I warped back to go knock him out. He wasn't too hard, and to my shock, the door behind him opened up, so I went right through to find an extension of Round Table. There was the Codex of the All-Knowing, which is just an Elden Ring Pokédex, but still cool. They also had achievements, so if y'all seem to like this, I'll go for a platinum run. In the courtyard, I found this Proving Grounds, which lets you fight your summons. I don't exactly know why you would want to do this, but it's still a cool thing. There was also a door that was barred off until I beat the game, a statue which wasn't working for right now, and a thing that showed me how many times it died. Now, sadly, I can't frolic around the round table anymore, so it was back to Smeyrag, though, there's nothing there. I went back and read the message, and it told me I had to violate him in his sleep by stealing the key right out from under his nose. This worked and spawned it in, so I grabbed it and ran through the academy. Now, if you wanted, I'd explain in great detail about how I went up this elevator and through this corridor, but I know you'd click off in 2 seconds, so hooray, we're at the Red Wolf. Now, I was getting clocked by him. It's not an issue with the mod, I just suck at the game. My puppies took care of him though and helped me take him down fairly easily. From there, it was just an easy run up to Renala, who wasn't changed at all. I was a little disappointed because this boss sucks, but whatever. However, after taking her down, I gained access to a new menu, Cradled Runes. These are just magic versions of rune pieces, boosting certain things like FP or casting speed. Plus, they cost 10 instead of 20 fragments. However, we're at a roadblock now. I never grabbed the medallion, so I had to go back to the castles and open the chests to find them. And inside was not a medallion. Right underneath that, however, was a red-eyed knight who, when killed, dropped it. The same could be said for the other castle, and we're back in Altus. Now, I was just gonna run straight into the capital, but the game had other plans for me. They made me circle around to the Windmill Village area to slide in from the back. Now, they added some catapults that, for no reason, had like absurd tracking and speed. As far as I could tell, there was no other way in though, so I just zigzagged a bunch, and after a couple attempts, I got it. Now, I don't really know why those were there, it seemed kind of pointless to me. However, just at the path was a draconic tree sentinel who was completely destroying me. So I had a look at the wiki and saw this new weapon that I could get immediately. All I had to do was clear out this camp, and would you look at that, what a fun looking weapon. Returning back, I had a much easier time taking him down and got to proceed into the capital. Now, they really changed progression here, and I don't know if I'd say it was for the better. They basically blocked certain routes to make you go the long way around. On the bright side, at least the Erdtree avatar has a health bar now. Right, guys? Either way, I started by going down here and up this ladder to unlock this shortcut, though that wasn't the end because I had to continue running through this mini settlement to circle around and up the dragon. From there, I finished running to Piss Godfrey and took him down with no effort. Doing this got me the Phantasmal Effigy, which allows you to get a more precise version of your build, which is pretty cool. Moving up to Morgott, I continued my murder spree, absolutely decimating him with the help of my jellyfish. Now, I was pretty disappointed in Leyndell. I've been enjoying the mod a lot up until this point, but the fact that the bosses were unchanged and the map was just made more annoying brought me down. Especially because the Convergence redesign was just so cool. To cheer me up, I decided to take their new route to the Mountaintop, which I thought was pretty cool. I love when you get to walk on trees. From there, I ran across the bridges and up into the hills. This was a real snooze fest. Mountaintop is one of the most boring areas in the game. Nothing against the mod here, I'm not expecting overhauls of each area, I just hate running through it. To amplify the pain, we still had Fire Giant at the end, and this was a wake-up call to me that I needed a new weapon, so back to the wiki we went. Now, on here there was a certain weapon that really caught my eye, but according to it, we have to go all the way to this hero's grave in Volcano Manor, which is kind of a long walk, but with the power of editing. Hello there, we have arrived at the grave, and you already know we're gonna pull off the skip, which took me longer to pull off than if I had just done the dungeon, but whatever. At the end was a Red Wolf, who I knocked out for the brand new weapon, Red Wolf's Fang. This thing honestly has one of the sleekest designs I've ever seen for a modded weapon, and I was very impressed by it. Plus, the Ash of War lets you jump, which is very interesting. Before we leave, I'll also note that he dropped a new spirit summon, which was a Bloodhound Knight, and trust me, he's as broken as he sounds. After upgrading the weapon, however, our damage was pretty insane, but I wasn't done yet. See, I decided to go check if the remembrances were changed before I consumed them, and there was something new there. After consulting ChatGPT, I found out that at the Chapel of Anticipation, there's a new altar where these can be traded in for any item of your choosing. So, after messing up the Grafted Scion, I went up and was greeted by a wide selection of items, though I ended up going with Rock Sasha Great Katana, because if you were playing the DLC when it first released, then you know ball. Now, I'm sorry for this, but I just realized I completely swapped for my Wolf's Fang after after using it on one boss, so sorry. Anyways, my great katana made him bleed out in front of me, which was pretty awesome. From there, I burned a woman because that's the closest Marcus Phonics will ever get to touching one. After that, we woke up in crumbling Farum and proceeded to the Godskin duo, who I at first thought really were just a duo this time, but nope, they just have split health bars now. Still a terrible boss. Let's go finish up the old Azula with Malekith. Now, I was able to get the first phase down halfway, but nothing was happening. Once it went down completely, I came to the sad realization that he has 2 full health bars, just like Sekiro, meaning I need to survive even longer. On a boss I really suck at. Despite this weird change, I was able to defeat him after about a half hour, which I'm not complaining about. I have a surprise in Ashen Leyndell anyway. If I can find it. I'm not kidding, there's a new boss on the wiki that seemed to just be gone in my world, but eventually I realized I had to go into rolled lift weight, which was very odd, but here he is. Does he look familiar? No? How about now? Yeah, that's what I thought. Actually, though, he was a pretty cool fight, and no, he wasn't a complete copy of old Demon King. Weirdly enough, he also caused bleed buildup, which I guess has something to do with his trident, though what would I know? My only gripe was just how tanky he was. Keep in mind this is a plus 10 weapon. However, this was still obviously an awesome boss and a huge checkmark for the mod. All that's left now is Gideon, who I'm embarrassed to say I actually died to once. I was able to pull it together on the second attempt though and finish on him, which really just means we have to fight an even harder Godfrey because they did the health bar thing. Again. That was the only real change though, but for reference, look at how much damage we're doing here compared to the Felthorn Spirit. Absurdity. Now, I really might as well move up and finish the game, so I did just that, knocking out Radagon and Elden Beast on my first attempt. Technically though, there are 2 endgame things. A new boss that requires you to collect every rune fragment, which is a no-go, and that area in Round Table that is a sort of boss rush mode. Overall, some nice additions, but nothing that was too over the top, so actually this time, that was the end. Now, you're probably wondering what I thought of the mod, and I actually really enjoyed it. Despite some major pitfalls, it was definitely a huge improvement over the base Elden Ring experience. I admit, since I was doing this for content instead of just a natural playthrough, I 100% missed a lot of things. From what I've gathered from this, it's intended for you to go exploring through the world again through incentives like rune fragments, but obviously, you would have had to wait as long for this video as the Dark Souls 3 Convergence one, so this was a baseline initial look at the mod. If I'm ever playing Elden Ring off camera, I'll tell you right now it'll be with this mod. Anyways, let me know if you enjoyed the video, and if you want me to do another playthrough of this with one of the new modes or something. Big shout out to Schooled in the Classics, me and my dad's channel where we play NES games, and of course, huge thanks to my channel members for supporting me despite my very inconsistent upload schedule. Alright, I'm overstaying my welcome here. Bye!